Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of CantoSense, where we are embracing Chinese culture for Christian living.
You know what? School holidays coming up. And as a parent myself, what am I going to do with my kid?
Well, I don't want to be giving you any ideas because your son might hate me, but if you want to keep him occupied, most Chinese parents would be signing their kids up for Kumon or tuition, depending what part of the world you're from, buying workbook exercise books in English, math, and whatever other subject, or signing them up for classes, sports classes, camps, music classes, any class that is out there. You just want to get your kid doing something during the summer holidays. All the ideas I just gave you are not originally from me. In fact, these ideas are widely used by Chinese parents everywhere, whether you're Chinese parents in Asia or in North America. So the question then is, why do Chinese parents not let their kids take a break during school holidays?
Is your family going on vacation? Oh, that's funny.
Some of the values that undergird this non-stop working, you have to be productive all the time attitude towards life is two things. Firstly is, just Chinese people, very pragmatic. We always do, even when it comes to like taking a break, we don't literally stop when we're taking a break, right? So kids, even though it's school holidays, you should be doing something. You should be buying next year's textbooks so that you are one up ahead,
Yes.
right? And so it's this whole idea of very pragmatic. You want to get good grades, so start early.
Yeah.
Of course, then there's this whole industriousness of Chinese people where, again, we don't stop. We have to be productive. For many years, diaspora Chinese, immigrant Chinese to North America and to different parts of the world, we've seen our parents work hard. We've seen grandparents work really hard to ensure that their children and their grandchildren have a decent life. And I think we've carried with us that kind of value, and we've been modeled that kind of industriousness, and therefore it's just a natural thing for us to do. I mean, holiday, no.
Hey, boss, do we get vacation days?
Your job is a vacation from poverty.
Right, because Chinese people on vacations don't sleep in and they book every tour, every sightseeing thing, every attraction out there because they need to maximize time.
Yeah, it's the pragmatic side. You spend so much money to go to a place. You want to see it. You don't want to sit in your hotel room and just read.
Right. But then inevitably, by the time the vacation is over and you're back home, you actually feel so worn out that you need another vacation for your vacation. But even though you feel this way, it still doesn't stop you from next time doing the exact same thing.
Because these Asian parents are working all the time, sometimes 7 days a week, they don't have time to take a break with their kids. During the kids' school holidays, they book them full with things that will occupy their time so that they, as parents, they can have the time to work and the kids are taken care of. As a result of that, kids feel really pressured. The days are packed and they actually sometimes feel even more pressured during their break than during their school days. And I think there's a need for us to think about, when will these kids rest, and often these kids grow up like that. When they're adults, they don't know when to stop because they've not been taught how to rest. It's a vicious cycle that perpetuates itself.
Looking at this through a Christian lens, which is what we aim to do here at CantoSense, it's about observing this balance, right? I mean, biblically, we are taught that there's a time for work and there's a time for rest. And there might be some kids who naturally are a bit more laid back. So it's not about having all the kids become like them, but it's about having kids or adults even know that there is a time to work. And when you're working, you work hard. And then when you rest well. And being able to strike that balance and know that there is a time for each purpose. It's this ongoing thing where this balance is not struck, whether you are laid back or incredibly industrious. I think it affects both sides. And what I've also observed is, because kids are often doing activities under the umbrella of school, like reading, writing, it's constantly associated with schoolwork, and therefore it's never enjoyed as a pleasurable activity in and of itself. I know of many adults who would say, I haven't read a book since university and I don't like to read. It's reading. It's not reading. They don't read for fun, they don't read for pleasure, and so as an adult they don't read anymore or they don't write anymore. And so you have these inherently very beautiful things that are not done as adults because they're associated with the negativity of work and productivity.
Yeah, instead of reading these days, obviously, children are on the computer all the time playing games because, like you say, reading is associated with a negative sentiment, and therefore rest or play is on the computer.
There's been this almost like a negative stigma towards rest or unproductivity.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we should do nothing, but a time of rest and Sabbath means doing things that recharge you as a person, being it physically, like maybe you might be sleeping, or mentally, emotionally, you might be doing your hobbies or interacting with people that recharge you, or spiritually, where you're spending quiet time with God. So that's not doing nothing, but it's doing things that may not be perceived as industrious or productive or have a necessary result or output. And so sometimes as cultural Chinese, we feel like those are a waste of time,
Yeah.
and you'll do it when you have time. Finding that rhythm of rest, and that is truly biblical. We need to know when to stop. We need to know when to let things go. I mean, even the definition of Sabbath is in your rest, you're letting go of what you can control. You're letting God do what he needs to do. And it's a reminder of that. And so I think with our kids and even with ourselves as adults, finding that rhythm of rest is so important as we model it for our children so that they know that they are permitted to do that as well.
One of the things that I have want to be intentional about with my son is that he does build in a routine to his days, because I think it's important for children to have routine.
Of course.
So there will be within the day time to play, time to rest, and time to help out with chores around the house. I know in Asia, a lot of families, middle-class families would have a helper at home, but I think it's equally important to involve your children around the house, especially during the school holidays.
Yeah, and just time to be a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, you only get a childhood once. I grew up in the West, so I lived in a environment of extremes where I saw kids out riding their bikes, playing in the mud, doing whatever all day, every day. And then I was doing workbooks and playing the violin. And so it was really a broad extreme. I talked to my mom about it as an adult, and we realized that there is a need for a kid to be a kid.
This is where our generation difference, becomes really distinct, because growing up, when I was a child, there were not a lot of tuition classes that were available. There were not a lot of school holiday programs that were made available. So I enjoyed my childhood. I spent most of my holidays reading, listening to cassette tapes, and
Right.
I had a great childhood. So I think in some ways, as society develops, perhaps in some ways, it hasn't been really that good for our children.
Well, this is a way to encourage parents to take a time of rest.
Yep, we have to resist our industriousness sometimes.
Yes.
And do the thing that is biblical.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of CantoSense. Subscribe to our channel, follow us on our social media. We hope to see you again soon.